So today we're going to talk a little bit about how, Max, you and your team were able to sell out of a new product in 24 hours by way of leveraging Smartling and your team to launch new products. And for those of you who are out there, wondering, how do I get my hands on a Vitamix? Very simple, because we're going to give away a Vitamix, not today, but here's how you win a Vitamix. All you have to do is go to smartling.com and book a demo with our sales team. Meet with our sales reps, talk about, learn a little bit more about the solution. And we're going to give away one Vitamix before the end of this year to somebody who has an experience with Smartling. And we're really looking forward to meeting you and having a conversation. Max, this is the blender that I bought. This is
wonderful. Good.
I didn't take this picture, but that's the blender that I have. It's a great one.
So for whoever wins it, you're going to have to share your favorite recipe since you have one yourself.
I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. All right, great. So let's talk a little next. Tell us about the company.
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting things going on. In 2021, we're going to be celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So we say we're right at the verge now of being a 100-year-old company headquartered in Northeast Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. And it's a family-owned company, which we really appreciate. So it's third generation with Jody Berg, who's the great-granddaughter of the founder, as the current acting CEO. And it's about 1,000 employees, roughly, give or take, and we're operating in 130 different companies. We have two sort of sectors of our business. We have the household side and the commercial side. So household is, what you and I would purchase, and the commercial side where we service, large chains, and you'll see us in a lot of retail establishments that you usually go to. With that, we have an interesting model where we're direct in a number of markets, and then we work through distributor partners in a lot of other countries. So some of the direct markets that we focus on are the UK, Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And I'm responsible for the marketing activity in Canada and Mexico.
So what you mean by that, Max, is that you will actually sell directly to the end user in a few markets, and then through the distributor markets, you're selling through third parties.
Yeah, exactly. So in those distributor markets, they're really acting as our voice and our brand. And they'll have the social channels that they control, email, working with the retail partners in those markets. And we work very closely with them to ensure that they're keeping our brand voice and our vision of how we want things to be run internationally.
And from what I understand, just not only as a consumer, but now as a partner to Vitamix, is that your brand really means a lot to your company and to your customers.
Absolutely. I'd say that this is one of the biggest things that we pride ourselves in is, establishing and creating a relationship with our consumers. You really see that in, for example, the warranty we have with our products. You'll typically see a 5, 7 to 10-year warranty with all of our products, and that's really leading the industry, and it drives us to be this relationship brand. I have a quote here that I wanted to share, which was from the great-grandfather, and it says, we're a purpose-based organization. If you're not going to be successful with the machine, then give it back. And we really mean it in the sense that we want to be with you every single step of the way as you unbox your Vitamix, you try your first blends, and you use it for years to come. It's not unusual that we get thank you letters. We actually put them up in our factory of people just saying how wonderful it is that they have a Vitamix as part of their life, and that it's been with them through so much. I mean, it's typical that we'll see a machine that's been around for 15, 17, 20 years.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think your point of the warranty is it's so incredible. Think of the household appliances that you have in your kitchen that have a 10-year warranty. It's probably a refrigerator, a stove, probably not a dishwasher. I mean, for a blender to have a 10-year warranty, that's remarkable.
Yeah, I think I read a statistic recently that was saying the average life of a car that somebody owns is about 7 years. So just knowing that you can expect your blender to be with you longer than you probably have your car, I think is really telling something, especially how often people get in and drive. And relationship brand is something that's really instilled upon us that we've been executing over the past few years. And it's a way for us to make sure that we're not just looking at creating the sale, but maintaining that relationship into the future.
And there's no question about it that the brand promise that you advertise is realized by the end user experience. You have a net promoter score of 76. And just really briefly before you share with us your point of view on this, Max, the net promoter score is that familiar question that you've been asked a million times on a scale of 0 to 10. How likely are you to recommend this product to a friend or a colleague? And the scale is actually from, it's 0 to 10, that's what you answer, but the scale goes from negative 100 all the way to positive 100. And 76 is basically in line with where Apple is in terms of their net promoter score. And to get anything near 70 is almost unheard of. It's a pretty incredible score.
Yeah, it really shows that we've been able both to live by the principles that the company instills and make sure that the customers are happy with the product and they're more likely to refer somebody to it. I mean, it's countless times where if I'm out or I talk to somebody and they ask where you work and you say Vitamix, they have some sort of story, right? I mean, it's often I'll travel to Canada and I'm there in the airport kind of checking through and they want to talk to me. They want to tell me about their favorite recipe that they made. And I think it really shows with this score. It's something we're very proud of. And this result actually came through in a recent survey that we did with our BI team earlier this year, where we really just wanted to get a sense of how customers are feeling right now, going through the pandemic and probably cooking a lot more at home. So it's nice to see, based on the results of both this score and what the survey looked like, that the customers are really pleased with the result and they're really happy to use the appliance in their everyday cooking, I'd say now more than ever.
Yeah, and I'm certainly one of those customers that's using it more now than I did before, simply because I'm home all the time for every meal. All right, so if you are trying to buy a Vitamix, and this is relevant to our webinar, there are two ways to do it, as you mentioned, Max. You can buy it directly on Vitamix.com, or you can get it through a retail partner like Costco and Amazon. Mm-hmm. Why is this important from a marketing perspective? What challenges does this introduce for you?
Yeah, and I think looking at this mix here, now more than ever, we're seeing the retail landscape really change, where customers are looking online first and they're trusting the manufacturers a lot more. And so some challenges we have, especially when you're looking at doing something on an international basis in a number of countries and languages, is maintaining consistency, right? Because the material that somebody is looking at in a Costco, in a physical brick and mortar store, on a third-party retailer site like Amazon and Direct, it really all has to match and be consistent in the story that we're trying to tell, so that customers have all the information they need when they're making the choice of what product is right for them to finally purchase. And I think Smartling really enables us to do that because it's a single platform that I think will really go into that. You have both people and you have a library of terminology that we use. And by doing that, we can really ensure, and I feel a lot more comfortable, especially when we're launching a number of products, that integrity and that voice that we're trying to maintain, as customers expect that with, a Net Promoter Score of 76, is consistent throughout.
Yeah, and what's also interesting, and we'll get into the technical details of this a little bit more later, but I remember when we were implementing Smartling that the challenge is you have some markets where you're listing the price and the ability for someone to add the product to their cart. And there are other markets where on your website, you advertise the product. You may even support the language of the country in which it's spoken, but you're not supporting sales there. So there's a lot of behind the scenes wizardry that has to go on in order to make that end user experience possible.
Yeah, I'd say the Vitamix website serves different purposes in the different markets, right? Those that we're indirect in, where we're working with a distributor to support us and we don't have e-commerce, it's really an education tool for customers to be able to understand and to use it as a resource later to find recipes and tips and tricks on how to use their machine. While, when we're doing it on some of our direct channels, we have that robust piece built out as well, but we also want a strong PDP page with reviews to make sure that we're completing the sale.
PDP, can you define that for those of us who don't know PDP?
Of course, that's the product detail page. So that's that, in essence, where all the specs are. You can look at all the pictures. Maybe there's some videos that are playing, but it's for you to really get an understanding of that specific product that you're trying to decide on.
And, it's not just the website, but the website is a really key part of your content landscape. But Vitamix, in order for that customer experience to be successful, supports a wide variety of content, ranging from multimedia videos, recipes, marketing emails, the point of sale collateral, and the actual box itself. This is a lot of content, Max.
Yeah, it's a lot of pieces that we really have to juggle, and it was interesting. In preparation for this, I was talking to our website manager, and I was just like, can you confirm or just clarify exactly how we were doing this before the Smartlings entered the picture? And I actually had to laugh because she was saying that we used Word documents. So we'd have our distributor partners in the different countries send us Word documents for our website that were marked up and translated. And that's what we had to use as the basis to get some of the translations on our websites. To think that that's where we started, with Word documents that were going back and forth, to having a robust offering that Smartling is able to support, just ensures that we have consistency across all these different tools that we're using to communicate with our customer. I remember in the early days when I started, there was a time when I was the person that for Spanish was reviewing the packaging, the website, and some of our print collateral, and there were some discrepancies. It's bound to happen when you have many different inputs coming in and offering translation, right? I mean, just the word blender, for example, there's a different word for it that you use, batidora in Spain and liquidora in Mexico. And having a system in place that really catches those things and has those checks has been really important to us. The other issue that we've had sometimes with consistencies would be with measurement translation, right? With ounces to liters, sometimes it's not an exact change in number, and you have to decide, are you rounding up, are you rounding down? And we saw discrepancies, we really did beforehand. So having this all under one roof has been extremely helpful.
Yeah, and we'll show a little bit of how that works. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the robust content experience that you use to sell me on the A2500 blender, which is an awesome blender. Tell me a little bit about how you pull these pages together and walk us through the content experience.
Yeah, so if you're starting to go into the consideration phase, right? If you're looking at the marketing funnel, awareness is first, where you're just acclimating yourself to the brand or saying, hey, I'm interested in learning a little bit more. Consideration is where you're narrowing it down and you're in between choices, right? So this is really where you're at, is between consideration and conversion when you get to this page. You've decided that you're interested in the A2500, and the clearest thing, as you said, with our direct markets, is you'll see the price here. So you'll understand exactly how much it costs, and then you see the input component there, or where you can do it as a payment plan, which is a nice offer that we're able to provide on our website. And then below that, if your eye's just going down the page, you see the reviews, which we use Bazaar Voice to help gather and aggregate those reviews. There's a really robust set of customer reviews where it's using the product for the first time, trying specific recipes. You have all the product images on your right-hand side there, so you get all the specifications. One piece that I've personally found very fascinating is the container. If you look at the Vitamix container there, it's designed in a special way so that the liquid or contents that's in there circulates in a way that it makes a consistent blend throughout, so you don't have the lumps and chunks sometimes that you see with some of our competitor products. One of those key differentiators that we have that I think is really important and kind of speaks through there when you're looking at the specs and the features and benefits, and of course the warranty that I talked about, which we're really proud to stand behind. It shows you everything that is in your product that'll come in your box, including a tamper, container, blender base, and then a recipe book, which we put a lot of pride and time into, and then the same with our support. So there's the support contact information there. If you have any questions, you can reach out to sales support, which is fantastic. We have a great customer success center, which is happy to talk to you.
I can attest to the quality of that cookbook. It is really beautiful. And even though I had seen that it came in the box, I was not expecting it to be as polished as it was. I mean, this is like a real cookbook, really nice. That's where I started my first blends from, because it was so easy to use.
Yeah. Well, do you remember what your first recipe was? I remember mine.
It was definitely a smoothie. I don't remember which one, but it was, well, maybe if we have some time, I'll pop up and I'll get the recipe book, because I'll have it marked.
Yeah. And mine was the whole fruit margarita. It was my girlfriend's dad that perfected it, though. He just surprised with the container one time when we were by the pool, and it was just fantastic. I recommend it.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we're talking about the recipes, and I think it's worth noting that not only is the book that's delivered with the product really comprehensive, but online you have so many recipes. And this is a major part of your content strategy. How do you think about creating all of this content, and what's the experience like for users in different languages?
Well, I'd say it really starts with the investment that the organization places in making sure that we have wonderful recipes that you're able to use and access. So we have 3 people as part of our culinary staff at Vitamix. We have a large culinary center that has all of the up-to-the-date equipment. I mean, looking through, they have 3 different ice machines, because on the commercial side, at least, different chains use different kinds of ice, and that's crushed differently. So they take a lot of painstaking, meticulous trial and error to perfect and come up with the recipes that then you see on our website that are organized by different category. And these are updated regularly. So it's a great resource once you do have our product. It's great because they even tailor the recipe to the container and the blender that you specifically have. So you can ensure that when you make it, that you're going to have a great result every time.
I hadn't thought of how the different ice would have an impact on a recipe or the outcomes, but it makes complete sense.
Oh yeah, they're so detail oriented. It's great. I mean, I love going down there, and sometimes back when we were working in the building, just the smells would waft through from all the stuff that they were working on. I mean, the challenges that you asked, it's clear, right? I mean, you saw it's 11 different languages that we're supporting. If we're pumping out recipes and content on a regular basis, we want to make sure that when you're accessing it anywhere in the world, that you're really able to follow along and successfully make the recipe. I mean, that goes to our principles of what we want to do is maintain that relationship and help you on your culinary exploration. And we really pride ourselves in also having healthy options, right? I mean, so a commenter was mentioning they make a fantastic paleo ice cream. Well, our product really supports being able to explore the different sort of culinary areas or maybe dietary restrictions that you have when you're cooking.
Yeah, it's amazing, all the things that you can make with the Vitamix. Really mind-blowing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how you've implemented Smartling. Your website architecture for local language content is powered by Smartling's global delivery network. And for those of you who don't know what the global delivery network is, I'll explain very briefly. It's a translation proxy, and it layers on top of Vitamix's website, and it creates the language locales necessary to support their user case. And what it does is it actually ingests all of the strings off of their source website, puts it through a translation process with visual context, and then it stores all of those strings and waits for the user to make a request. So just to walk you through an example, an English user who wants to buy a product or browse a product on Vitamix.com will go directly to Vitamix's website and server to get the content. So if you type in Vitamix.com, you go directly to the server that delivers the user experience. But if you're in Canada, for example, and you want to access the information in French, the URL actually points to Smartling's global delivery network. And when you make that request as the user, Smartling makes the request of the source server for the up-to-date experience on the Vitamix landing page. And then we automatically swap the English strings for the French strings instantaneously and deliver it back to the user. You could actually go to Vitamix.com right now and switch over to the experience in Canada, and you will be going through Smartling to get that content. It's a really powerful solution. Max, why did Vitamix choose that solution, and what has it done for your team?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I said earlier, you have to realize we came from Word documents that you had, 30 different partners sharing with us for translated recipes. And if you think to that and what we really commit to making sure that there's fresh content available, it's not scalable, right? I mean, it's not something that you can do and look to expand and really create a robust experience that we want our customers to have on the site. By doing this, we reduce the need for our designers to have to think local. That's all in Smartling's hands. And it's just made for a really good partnership that we've had, especially with the BBC system that we're using. So I would just say it's on my end when I travel around the world and I click on the site and it happens instantaneously. I don't think consumers really understand all the nuts and bolts that really go into providing something like that, which I'm really grateful that Smartling's able to offer us.
Yeah, it's really cool back-end technology, and the core value that the global delivery network delivers to Max and to the Vitamix team is that they don't actually have to think about building a local language infrastructure. We take care of all of that. So they're using BBC, which is a CMS powered by Adobe, right, Max? It's an Adobe product. So this basically eliminates the need to build a localization infrastructure within your existing CMS, whether it's BBC or WordPress or Drupal or Squarespace, whatever CMS you're using, any HTTPS content can be picked up by the global delivery network. But it's not just your website that has a fully automated translation workflow. You have members of your web team, your creative team, your email and digital team, and your commercials team that either use the global delivery network or a drag and drop solution to get content into the translation management system, from which you can automate everything surrounding the human translation process. What has this centralized translation technology and infrastructure done for your team?
Yeah, I think we hit on it earlier where we talked about it just allows us to maintain consistency in multiple languages across channels. And that can become a very complex ordeal, especially if you add in the layer of us launching multiple products in a short time frame. I mean, you talk about us also working from home these days. Being able to do that just allows us to be extremely fast. If you look at our owner manual, it's many pages of information that's important that it's correctly translated, right? That sort of information is critical, that it's provided in a way that it's understandable for the consumer. I think we've all experienced poor translations or looking through something in Google Translate and seeing the challenges that really come with that. So I think the biggest thing that this has done is allowed us to maintain a consistent brand voice through the layers of complexity, which are launching in different markets with different languages and trying to do that extremely quickly and maintain one cohesive interface and voice, especially where we pride creating that relationship and maintaining it with our customers throughout the experience of how long they have the machine.
I think you made one good point that I just wanted to highlight there, which is that despite the fact everyone at Vitamix or most people are working from home right now, your translation pipeline has not been disrupted one bit. everything that Smartling does is based in the cloud. So there's no need to be on site to connect with a server. Every time you log in, Max, someone else from your team can log in and see exactly what you're looking at, which is a real big advantage.
Yeah, and I would say that that's an understatement, right? Because there's a lot of adjustments people are having to make switching to working from home. It's a lot of different systems that people are operating on and figuring out how that pieces together, or maybe on the fly starting to purchase new systems to make sure that working from home happens smoothly. And we just didn't have to explore that when it came to working with Smartling.
One of the challenges that you mentioned earlier about your process with translation before Smartling was managing your brand and style guide, all of which are now cloud-based and managed directly in Smartling. Here's a table that's just showing 4 of your glossary terms that you use. Can you tell us a little bit about how you put this together and why it's so important?
Yeah, so I'd say as a team, we came together marketing wise and really came up with the terms that were key and really meant something so that it couldn't be lost in translation. You picked out some really good ones here if we go through. And then we went and spoke with all of our distributors to confirm that this is in fact the words that we really need to massage and work with. And from that, we narrowed it down to a list that we use for all of the languages that we have. So if we want to go down the list, I mean, certified reconditioned, for example, it's not just saying it's used or it's something that you're getting a deal on. I mean, for us, we have a whole page on our website dedicated to what certified reconditioned means to us. It goes through a 17-step process for being evaluated. Parts are swapped out. The blade base can't be more than a year old. And there's a lot of steps for us to certify a reconditioned machine that we just want to make sure that that's not lost to the customer and consumer as we have flash sales or sell those products on our direct page. And those are some of our best-selling products in some respects when we have our discounts going for flash sales. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that certified reconditioned is meaningful to us. The same with Classic Blender. I mean, Classic, if you're using a different translation service, just what's the word for Classic? But for us, that really means our first generation of blenders before the Ascent series that are like the 5200 and very distinct ones. So when we're looking at print collateral material and we're talking about those specific machines, we want to make sure that we're using the same terminology. And high performance blender, I mean, that's us. Something that we've taken to heart is wanting to be the leader in high performance blending, which is you're not just making smoothies, you're not limited to the type of things you can put in your blender, but you're able to make the nut butters, you're able to really do some of those tough blends and create dough and hot soups. And our product that doesn't have a sharp blade, but rather relies on the friction to heat things up or to break things down to create a consistent texture is everything that we think about and we put into when we talk about high performance blending, and it can't just be misconstrued for us. If you look at the last term there, Venturist, that's a brand term. That's one of our product series, similar to the A2500, which you're giving off, which is the Ascent series. Venturist is a very specific name, and we've decided to keep that in English throughout translation. So there's when you're looking at text, there's key elements that in the way we've been working with Smartling, the people that they have working on those different languages know to pull out and to either translate a certain way or to leave in English.
I don't know about anyone else who's listening to this, but I am getting hungry and I'm going to put my Vitamix to work as soon as this webinar is over. But what's cool is that all of these terms, Max, are, as I mentioned earlier, they're in the cloud. You can update them anytime, and you do. And the translator, the Smartling translator that works with your account in different languages, all of them have access to this glossary. So they can actually read all of these descriptions. They have read them, and you can actually enforce the translator to follow them with a series of automated quality checks. It's a really cool part of our solution. And of course, you have the ability to directly communicate with our language translator so that if there's a problem or a question or a briefing that wants to be conveyed, you can do that either through the platform or we've also had Zoom calls between translators and customers so that you have the ability to coach them directly.
Yeah, I've done that. I've communicated directly when there was a question about which conversion we want to use for measurements, right? I mean, it's an easy way for us to just quickly get on the same page and make sure we're doing things right.
Yeah. So let's talk about your direct to consumer business in Canada, because this is something you've been building out for a few years now. And this year in particular, you had a pretty exciting tear of product launches.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is the mix of products that we've launched so far in the US and Canada. It's the first time that we decided to simultaneously launch this many products and in 2 markets at the same time. So what you see at the top left is our stainless steel container. That's pays a bit of homage both to the original container that used to be on the Vitamix blender 20-25 years ago, and the requests that we were receiving from customers to go back to that and to have an offering for customers who wanted to use stainless steel rather than the Triton plastic container that we're traditionally using. They're able to purchase that as an accessory. To the right of that, you'll see the food cycler, and this is a really interesting innovation that I'm excited about, which is a food recycler. So basically, you cook and you could use your blender, let's say, to make a smoothie, and you can take the banana peel from your smoothie, drop it into the food cycler, and in hours it turns it into a soil additive that then you can add to your garden or something to enhance and help it grow better. And it's nice because you can look through the life cycle of what you're cooking and then the waste and being able to do something with that waste, which we're really pleased to have launched that this year. The bottom left there, you'll see the food processor attachment that we have. And this works on our Ascent and Venturist bases. And it's just great to be able to use that power and motor that we have to then offer you a food processor and reduce space in your kitchen so you don't need multiple appliances for things. And then the last product that we've launched is the immersion blender, which is designed in a way so that you can really easily use it with one hand, and the bell shape avoids splattering at the bottom there where you see the blade base. Max,
this is, I understand, the most number of products that you've ever launched in a year before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of products to bring to the market all at once. What were some of the challenges when your team said, okay, we've got 4 products slated for 2020, let's get to work?
Oh yeah, I think everybody going into the planning phase at the beginning knew that 2020 was going to be a big year for us and was going to be a lot of work marketing wise. We definitely had to shift a lot of attention in making sure internally that we were working closely together to make sure we were all on the same page for things, especially as some dates were shifting. And on top of that all, we're dealing with the COVID pandemic and trying to make the right decisions for the organizations and for our customers. I mean, one thing we've really experienced this year is a large peak in interest just in general for us. And we wanted to make sure that we were launching these on time for customers to be able to purchase and add to their kitchen.
Yeah, these are some cool products. So let's talk about how you brought them to market in Canada.
Yeah, so I think this slide here talks to how we've been able to use Smartling as we've expanded things. So on the right, you'll see there is an example of a Costco ad, and all Costco ads have to be in English and French when we submit them, and they rigorously look through to make any adjustments. And it was funny because going through this, when we were working on banners and we're working on these ads with Costco, we have an agency partner in Canada, and we'd said, hey, can you still take a look at these on the side to see if you have any feedback? And we haven't received any feedback from them from the translation. So we can attest to the fact that everything's been going through really smoothly. And what's nice is, we input them if it's for the website or if it's print collateral or digital banners. We request the translation through the system, and we were testing for the first time running French language paid ads. So that's the example you see over there on your left is the one of the first, or actually I think that this is going to be running soon, one of the first paid ads that we've ran. And there's a test coming up in a couple slides if you want to go to that one or go to the next slide. I think it should cover it. So we had our first ever flash sale where we really wanted to test the interest of the French-speaking market in Canada and target them directly. So we did a flash sale that we supported with digital ads in both languages, in French, Canadian, and in English. And you'll see for our return on ad spend. So basically this means for every dollar we spent in advertising, we received either $2.54 or $3.49 back in sales. And by this, you can see that we had a distinct edge for the French Canadian, which was something that we hadn't supported in the past. Again, it was a test just to see if there was viability there, if it made sense for us to approach and to expand the type of offers and communication that we have in French. And this was a good ode to things we want to do in the future and we want to continue providing.
This slide makes me so happy because a lot of people, they understand on the basic level that language translation is important. But when you put numbers in front of people, then it becomes a little bit of a higher priority in people's minds. And you can actually understand the value of translation better. And, this is just one measurement, one study that you ran, but this is the kind of information that really captures the interest of management. If you can demonstrate the business value of translation, then you will continue being able to invest in different markets in ways that are appropriate for the business. And this example of your return on investment in English ads versus French ads in Canada of $2.54 versus $3.49 is a clear positive result for the French translation experience that you've put together.
Absolutely. And if you look at this in the context of Canada specifically, it's a relatively mature market for blenders, right? I mean, blenders have been around, you know who the main competitors are. So when you see numbers like this, you can think of it a little bit differently as far as there's a growth opportunity, right? There's an audience that we're not reaching, or we could do a better job at reaching to increase our sales that we weren't tapping into before. And Smartling as a tool helps us to reach those customers.
Yeah, and you mentioned on the previous slide, like these are the ads that were translated, but you saw here that the product descriptions were translated. All of the content surrounding the product was translated. Another cool business result that you shared with us was that you got a lot of media attention.
Absolutely. So you've seen, I mean, we have a lot of Vitamix fans. So we had amazing reaction to the fact that we're launching these products. This slide specifically here speaks to just the food cycler, which is the unit that you can put food waste into and it turns into something that you can then add to your soil. But 140 media placements, and I mean, we're talking about a product that launched in late July, just 3.5 million plus in reach. We've just had amazing results. And we're extremely happy with how this has gone and how it's received and how excited people are about the product. And I'll say that we saw these results in both languages, right? We saw this in English and in French, which I think is a great testament to how we've been able to work successfully in both languages, English and French.
Yeah, this is just like such a cool way, again, of showing business value and what the impact of your language translations have on a market. Certainly if the Canadian news media were to go to your website or read your materials and they weren't translated, they probably wouldn't have been so persuaded to produce news media about the product launch. It certainly helps to be speaking their language.
Yeah, it would have been more challenging for them to also drive to a site, right? Because if you have consumers that are engaging in a language, let's say French Canadian in this sense, and you're driving traffic to the site, for that experience to be only in English would be extremely challenging.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the site, around the time of this product launch, I just love looking at this graph with you, which shows your website traffic from Canada spiking in July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're looking at this is just one metric, but if we look at just traffic in general to our website, social media engagement, followership, we've really been performing well. We've been hitting records, and even sales wise, we've had a tremendous year, which has been fantastic to do with all these adverse circumstances and being able to launch all these products. So well, we've been extremely busy, but it's been a fun year to be a part of the Vitamix family.
Yeah. And I just think it's really cool to see, at Smartling, when we have product launches, we also look at our website traffic and we look at spike data. This is invaluable for a brand, to have, triple the number of visitors on your website over a single day or series of days or a week. It's a major influx of eyeballs on your content, which presumably or hopefully will one day lead to products being sold, which is exactly what happened in your case, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But before we do, you mentioned that you are a customer of Smartling, not only for its technology, but also for its language translation services. And we looked at the data, Max, to get an idea for how well your translations are performing. And what we found is year to date, for French Canadian translations, 99.87% of the content translated was approved by Vitamix without any changes.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this, I was sending the content off to our agency partner just to have a second set of eyes, just to take a look at things at the beginning to make sure everything looked right. And they never came back with any revisions, edits, or changes. So it's been such a smooth partnership, specifically this year when we've been launching all these products. So it's been great.
Yeah. So what is the partnership enabled you all to focus on now that you don't have to think as much about translation?
Absolutely. I mean, specifically in my role, it helps us think about the marketing and the strategic piece of that, right? So it's helping us plan this year out or 3-year plan and exactly how to be on the offensive, since we know that all the collateral and material will be taken care of, right? So this is if we're organizing events, if we're scheduling campaigns, if we're doing research with our agency partners to figure out how we want to tackle the year or initiatives or react to changes in the market, we can be a lot more flexible. I have regular calls, for example, with our agency partner and the digital manager there, and together we come up with our approach and we look very closely at the performance of things from a paid perspective and shifting dollars from one area to another. And by not having to look in the weeds and look through text, because I was there, I had to do it where I was comparing print collateral versus the website versus our packaging. It allows me the flexibility to do a lot more with my time and really focus on the strategic initiatives.
That's awesome. Well, the results really do speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because we sold out of the food processor attachment extremely quickly within 24 hours. And we had such a robust marketing plan that we were just like, okay, we need to take a pause. We need to figure out what our plan is going forward. We're in a great spot. We sold everything out, but it definitely took some patience on our end of then deciding when we wanted to use what tactics and put some investment towards getting eyeballs on these products. And so, of course, we wanted to make sure it was available when people were looking at it.
That's awesome. Well, it's always great to see results like this too. We talked about click-through rates, we talked about website traffic, but when the product is being sold, or in this case, sold out, you're doing something right, not just from a marketing perspective and a language translation perspective, but from a product development perspective. But all of these pieces have to work together for a result like this to actually be realized. It is so cool to be able to partner with you, Max, and your team and realize a result like this. This is just such a treat.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's a win for the both of us, right? I mean, to see how Smartling's with us every step of the way as we're releasing these products and working diligently on the fly to get things done on time to then be sold out with the food processor in 24 hours. Like, we were really excited on our end, and we have a lot of energy around our 100-year anniversary coming up and the things that Vitamix has to offer in the future. So we're really pleased and look forward to hearing from folks if they have any questions for us in the chat. But yeah, we're in a good place right now. I'm looking forward to the holidays.
Yeah, if you are watching or listening, jump into the chat right now. If you have questions for me or Max, feel free to drop them in and we'll be happy to answer them. And if you join the webinar just a minute or two late, we are giving away one Vitamix. All you have to do is book a meeting with our team. Go to smartling.com and just book a meeting, and we're going to announce a winner before the end of the year. This is a great opportunity to get yourself a new blender. But Max, this has been terrific. Thank you so much for being here.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun, and it was nice to remember our days way back in the beginning when you were our success manager. It was good.
Yeah, it was good fun. I don't see any questions in the chat or in the Q&A function. We'll give people another minute or so, but thank you everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate your being here, and you can find me and Max on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to speak with you directly there. And we hope that everyone has a really wonderful rest of their day.
Oh, looks like we got a question that came in.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let's see it. The question is, how long have they been working together? I assume the question is, how long have Smartling and Vitamix been working together? I think, Max, we started our relationship in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I came on board in 2017. So as I came on board at the beginning of that year, we were in the midst of integrating and making that switch and building out the glossary.
Yeah, and the implementation, I recall, took a couple of months. Vitamix has a very complex website, but leveraging the global delivery network, it's pretty straightforward to get that implemented. Another question just came in from E.T. Hello. Do you have a regional content strategy? Is there an instance where you choose to create region-specific content instead of translating corporate content?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll say, as the overseeing Mexico and Canada, we independently come up with. So it's basically, if you think about it, it's a transnational strategy where corporate comes up with the umbrella of the message of what we want to talk about. So Feed Your Life is sort of our overarching brand message currently. And then we work with an agency partner in the different regions. So there's one in Canada, there's one in Mexico, that help us come up with the exact plan of how we execute that and how we bring it to life locally. I find it really important personally that there is a regional execution and strategy to it when you're talking about the brand partners you're working with, if it's influencers or giveaways or partnerships or events, that you do have a regional approach to that. I think it differentiates us to be able to speak to people locally.
That's a great question and a really awesome answer, Max. It looks like we might be all set. We'll give another 30 seconds or so, but thank you again, Max. This is great. And thanks again to everybody who's joined.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Like you said, feel free to reach out. I'm sure we'll be talking soon. So I'll wish you guys all a nice afternoon then, and good luck to winning yourself a Vitamix if you end up scheduling them. Oh,
we got two more.
Cool.
What is your partnership with the product team to localize the terms on the Vitamix itself?
Yeah, so interesting you say that. We have product management and we have marketing, and of recent we've actually decided to move forward by integrating the two teams. So we'll have one vice president that oversees both departments. We work pretty closely with them. For example, we have a weekly new product launch meeting that involves sales, product management, and marketing. So it's a pretty close relationship, I'd say, with us speaking regularly to make sure we're on the same page. I hope that answers your question. Feel free to expand on that if you want to know more about the Vitamix terms. I think marketing really takes the lead when it comes to creating. So they'll come to us and say, hey, this is what we're trying to describe, and then we'll take it from there and do the research and make sure that we're accurately picking the terms that make sense.
Max, I'll ask a follow-up question on that. We have one more
Sure.
question coming in that I've asked for a little clarification on, but the newer Vitamix products are technology enabled, and they have a smartphone app to help use the tool. Is that app translated?
No, the app is currently linked more so to a product to scale. So the app then makes sure that it's the perfect blend app, that you're adding the right amount of liquid and ingredients. I would say the technology that we're really utilizing with some of the products now would be our self-detect technology, so that understands which container is on the base when it's off the base, so that it regulates the blending speed. So you have a nice consistent blend based on if it's a 48-ounce container, 64-ounce container, or food processor attachment.
Great. Another question, which I think I'll take, Max, is does Smartling custom budgets for different needs? Vitamix is a large company, but can Smartling accommodate more introductory needs working with startups and smaller businesses? The answer is yes. Thank you for the question. We have multiple versions of our product that are available for users. It scales nicely with whatever your needs are and how much content you're translating. So you come to us, you tell us what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll work within, the parameters of what our availability is and what your needs are to create a good solution. So thank you for the question. Head on over, book a demo. You might win a Vitamix. So, that's an incentive in and of itself, right? Great. I don't see any more questions. So I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Max. And
Perfect.
Thank you everybody so much for joining. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, have a nice lunch. It was a pleasure. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.